A 70-year-old Hollywood legend standing at a crossroads between heartbreak and hope, his silver hair catching the California sunset as cameras flash around him. The world knows him as the man who built baseball fields and cornfields, who protected Whitney Houston on screen, and who ruled over a modern-day ranch empire in Yellowstone. But behind those piercing blue eyes lies a love story more complicated than any screenplay he's ever read. Kevin Costner, the man who made millions swoon in romantic dramas, has lived through enough real-life romance, scandal, and heartbreak to fill a dozen movies. And just when everyone thought his chapter on love had closed after a devastating divorce that cost him millions and dragged to the tabloids for months, he's found something unexpected. Something that has Hollywood buzzing and fans wondering if the leading man has finally found his happily ever after. But to understand where Kevin Costner is today, we need to rewind the tape and walk through the winding road of his romantic journey, a path littered with broken promises, secret affairs, A-list flings, and loves that burn bright before fading to ash. Kevin Costner's love story doesn't begin in the glittering lights of Hollywood premieres or on luxurious film sets. It starts in the simple, wholesome setting of California State University, Fullerton, where a young Kevin met a beautiful theater student named Cindy Silva. The year was 1975, and Kevin was just another college kid with big dreams and empty pockets, working odd jobs and studying business while secretly harboring fantasies of making it as an actor. Cindy was different from anyone he'd ever met. She understood the artistic temperament, shared his passion for performance, and saw potential in him when the rest of the world saw just another struggling wannabe. Their connection was instant and electric, the kind of love that feels destined, written in the stars. They dated through college, supporting each other through classes, performances, and the uncertainty of youth. Kevin would later describe those early days as some of the happiest of his life, a time when love was pure and uncomplicated by fame or fortune. 3 years into their relationship, on a crisp evening in 1978, Kevin got down on one knee and asked Cindy to be his wife. She said yes without hesitation, and they married in a modest ceremony surrounded by friends and family, who had no idea that the groom would one day become one of Hollywood's biggest stars. For the first few years of their marriage, Kevin and Cindy struggled together. He took bit parts in forgettable films, worked construction jobs, drove trucks, and even considered giving up on his dreams entirely. Cindy worked as well, doing whatever she could to help keep them afloat financially, while Kevin chased an elusive breakthrough. She believed in him when casting directors didn't, when auditions led nowhere, when the rejection letters piled up. This period of struggle would later be romanticized as a foundation of their bond. Two people against the world, building something beautiful from nothing. Then came the breakthrough. In 1987, Kevin landed the role that would change everything. Elliot Ness and Brian De Palma's The Untouchables. Suddenly, the struggling actor was a household name. Offers poured in, and Kevin seized them with both hands. He followed up with a string of hits that defined an era. Bull Durham, Field of Dreams, Dances with Wolves, which he also directed and which won Academy Awards for Best Picture and Best Director. By the early 1990s, Kevin Costner wasn't just a movie star. He was a cultural phenomenon, a leading man who embodied American masculinity, heroism, and charm. But as his star rose, the foundation of his marriage began to crack under pressures that neither he nor Cindy had anticipated. Fame is a seductive mistress, and Kevin Costner found himself surrounded by temptation at every turn. Beautiful actresses wanted to work with him, models threw themselves at him, and the power dynamics of Hollywood placed him at the center of attention wherever he went. Cindy, meanwhile, had stepped back from her own acting aspirations to raise their 3 children. Annie, born in 1984, Lily, born in 1986, and Joe, born in 1988. She had become a full-time mother, while Kevin became a full-time sensation, and the distance between them grew with each passing year. Rumors began to circulate in the early 1990s that Kevin wasn't being faithful to his college sweetheart. Whispers of affairs on movie sets reached Cindy's ears. Tabloids hinted at indiscretions, and the perfect Hollywood couple started to look less perfect behind closed doors. The breaking point came in 1994, 16 years into their marriage. Kevin was filming Waterworld, an ambitious and troubled production that would become notorious for its budget overruns and behind-the-scenes chaos. But it wasn't the film's financial problems that would make headlines. It was what Kevin allegedly did during production. Reports surfaced that Kevin had engaged in an affair with a hula dancer in Hawaii, where the film was being shot. The tabloids had a field day with the story, painting Kevin as yet another Hollywood husband who couldn't resist temptation once fame came calling. Cindy, who had stood by Kevin through poverty and obscurity, had apparently reached her breaking point. In a joint statement that tried to maintain dignity in the face of scandal, Kevin and Cindy announced their separation. The statement spoke of mutual respect and amicable parting. But everyone knew the truth was messier than the carefully crafted press release suggested. The divorce was finalized in 1994, and it cost Kevin dearly. Cindy walked away with an $80 million settlement, one of the largest divorce payouts in Hollywood history at that time. It was a staggering sum that reflected both Kevin's enormous success and California's community property laws. For Cindy, the money was perhaps some consolation for betrayal and the years she'd sacrificed her own dreams to support his. For Kevin, it was an expensive lesson about the consequences of infidelity and the price of fame. But if Kevin thought his romantic troubles were behind him, he was sorely mistaken. His next relationship would prove even more complicated and would produce consequences that would follow him for the rest of his life. In 1995, shortly after his divorce from Cindy was finalized, Kevin began a whirlwind romance with a woman named Bridget Rooney. Bridget wasn't just any woman. She came from American royalty of a different sort. She was a niece of Dan Rooney, the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and was connected to one of the most prominent families in professional sports. She was beautiful, sophisticated, and moved in elite social circles. For Kevin, still reeling from his divorce and looking to move on, Bridget represented something new and exciting. Their relationship was passionate but brief, burning hot and fast before flaming out after just a few months. Kevin moved on, likely thinking that chapter was closed. But in November 1996, Bridget gave birth to a son and claimed Kevin was the father. Kevin's initial response was denial. He didn't publicly acknowledge the child, didn't immediately step up to claim paternity, and for years, the situation remained murky and uncomfortable. Bridget, meanwhile, moved on with her life, eventually marrying billionaire businessman Bill Koch in 2005. But the question of Liam Costner's paternity hung in the air, unresolved and uncomfortable. Finally, after years of speculation, a paternity test was conducted, and it confirmed what Bridget had claimed all along. Kevin Costner was indeed Liam's biological father. The revelation was embarrassing for Kevin, who had to publicly acknowledge a son he'd initially refused to claim. To his credit, Kevin eventually stepped up, accepting responsibility and developing a relationship with Liam, though their connection has remained largely private over the years. Liam has stayed out of the Hollywood spotlight, reportedly working in real estate, and while Kevin includes him when he talks about his 7 children, their relationship is undoubtedly complicated by those difficult early years. The Bridget Rooney situation revealed something about Kevin that would become a pattern. A man who chased excitement and passion, but sometimes struggled with the consequences and responsibilities that followed. But in 1999, Kevin's romantic life would take another turn, one that seemed to promise stability and a second chance at lasting love. That year, he reconnected with a woman named Christine Baumgartner, someone he'd actually met years earlier, while still married to Cindy. Christine was nearly 20 years younger than Kevin, working as a model and handbag designer. When they reconnected in 1999, both were in different places in their lives, and the timing finally seemed right. They began dating, and for the first time since his divorce, Kevin seemed genuinely committed to building something lasting. But even this relationship hit serious turbulence before it could reach the altar. By 2003, after 4 years of dating, Kevin and Christine split up over a fundamental disagreement: children. Christine, then in her late 20s, wanted to start a family. Kevin, already in his late 40s with 4 children from previous relationships, was reportedly hesitant about starting over with diapers and late-night feedings. The breakup seemed final, with both parties going their separate ways. But love, as they say, has a way of finding a path. After several months apart, Kevin had a revelation. He realized that losing Christine was a mistake he couldn't live with, and he decided that having more children was a sacrifice he was willing to make for a woman he truly loved. They reconciled and Kevin proposed. On September 25, 2004, Kevin Costner and Christine Baumgartner married in a lavish ceremony at his ranch in Aspen, Colorado, surrounded by family and close friends. The wedding was everything the tabloids love: romantic, expensive, and star-studded. It seemed like Kevin had finally found the stability and partnership that had eluded him with Cindy. True to their reconciliation promise, Kevin and Christine started a family. They welcomed Caden Wyatt in 2007, Hayes Logan in 2009, and Grace Avery in 2010. Kevin embraced fatherhood again, often speaking in interviews about how much he loved being a dad and how Christine had brought balance and joy back into his life. For nearly 2 decades, they appear to be one of Hollywood's more stable couples, avoiding major scandals and presenting a united front at red carpets and public events. Kevin's career continued to flourish, and when he took on the role of John Dutton in the hit series Yellowstone in 2018, his star power was reignited for a new generation. Everything looked perfect from the outside, the ideal second-act love story. But behind the scenes, cracks were forming in the foundation of their marriage, and those cracks would eventually shatter everything. On May 1st, 2023, the world was shocked when news broke that Christine Baumgartner had filed for divorce from Kevin Costner after 18 years of marriage. The filing cited irreconcilable differences, that vague legal term that covers a multitude of sins. But what followed was anything but amicable. The divorce quickly turned into one of Hollywood's most contentious and publicized splits, playing out in courtrooms and tabloid headlines for months. Christine initially refused to move out Kevin's sprawling beachfront compound in Carpinteria, California, leading to an ugly legal battle over occupancy. Kevin's lawyers argued that Christine was refusing to leave despite the prenuptial agreement they'd signed, which specified exactly what she was entitled to in the event of divorce. Christine's lawyers countered that she needed time and resources to find suitable housing for herself and their 3 children. The financial details that emerged during the divorce proceedings were staggering. Kevin was paying Christine $129,000 per month in child support, but she initially requested $248,000 per month, arguing that amount was necessary to maintain the lifestyle their children were accustomed to. The public watched with fascination and occasional disgust as 2 people who had once professed eternal love fought over money, property, and custody arrangements in the most public way possible. Accusations flew from both sides. There were allegations that Kevin had been absent during the marriage, to focus on his career and passion projects like the multi-film Horizon saga he was producing and directing. Others whispered that Christine had been involved with their neighbor, Josh Connor. Even before the separation, though these rumors were never definitively proven during the marriage, the divorce became a spectacle, a reminder that even decades-long marriages in Hollywood can collapse under the weight of incompatibility, resentment, and competing interests. By September 2023, Kevin and Christine reached a settlement, and in the public court battle, but not the emotional toll of the split. The divorce was finalized in February 2024, closing a chapter that had lasted nearly 2 decades. Kevin was reportedly devastated, friends close to him suggesting that he hadn't seen the divorce coming and felt blindsided by Christine's decision to end the marriage. At nearly 70 years old, Kevin Costner found himself single again, facing the prospect of rebuilding his personal life at an age when most people are settling into retirement and grandparenthood. It would have been easy for him to retreat, to focus solely on his work and his children, to declare himself done with romantic relationships after 2 failed marriages and multiple complicated relationships. But Kevin Costner has never been one to follow the expected script. In the months following his divorce, Kevin was photographed looking contemplative, sometimes melancholy, walking beaches alone or attending events solo. The tabloids speculated constantly about his emotional state and whether he would ever date again. Then, in December 2023, rumors exploded when Kevin was photographed on a private island in the Caribbean, looking very cozy with singer-songwriter Jewel. The images showed them laughing, walking close together, and appearing comfortable in each other's company at a charity event called the Inspiring Children Foundation's annual gala fundraiser. The internet went wild with speculation. Jewel, 50 years old at the time, was also recently divorced and seemed like a perfect match for Kevin. Talented, age-appropriate, independent, and down-to-earth. Fans began shipping them immediately, hoping that two people who had both experienced heartbreak might find healing together. But Kevin quickly threw cold water on the dating rumors. In a June 2024 interview on The Howard Stern Show, he addressed the speculation directly. "Jewel and I are friends," Kevin stated firmly. "We have never dated. We've never gone out. She is special, and I don't want these rumors to ruin our friendship." He explained that they had met through mutual friends involved in charitable work and had simply attended the event together as friends, nothing more. While some fans were disappointed, others appreciated Kevin's honesty and his desire to protect a genuine friendship from being twisted into something it wasn't. The incident revealed something important about Kevin at this stage of his life. He was being more careful, more deliberate about his private life, and less willing to let public speculation dictate his choices or relationships. For several months after the Jewel rumors died down, Kevin seemed to stay out of the dating scene entirely. He focused on promoting his Horizon film series, spending time with his children, and navigating the complicated co-parenting relationship with Christine as they both adjusted to their new reality. But Hollywood is a small town, despite its massive population, and Kevin moved in circles where beautiful, accomplished women were abundant. It was perhaps inevitable that someone would catch his eye again, and in August 2025, multiple sources confirmed to media outlets that Kevin was casually dating someone new. Her name was Kelly Noonan Gores, and she represented yet another chapter in Kevin's complicated romantic history. Kelly Noonan Gores was not a random Hollywood starlet or aspiring actress looking to boost her profile by dating a famous actor. At 46 years old, she was an accomplished woman in her own right. A director, actress, author, and wellness advocate. She had directed the documentary Heal, which explored mind-body medicine and holistic health practices, and had built a career around empowerment and spiritual wellness. She was also recently divorced from billionaire businessman Alec Gores, with whom she shares a young daughter. Alec Gores, 72 years old and worth billions, is a private equity mogul known for his special-purpose acquisition company deals and philanthropic work. Kelly's divorce from Alec had been finalized in 2024 after they announced their separation in December 2024, ending their 8-year marriage. Like Kevin, Kelly was navigating single life after a long-term marriage, dealing with co-parenting responsibilities, and trying to figure out what came next in her personal life. According to sources close to the couple, Kevin and Kelly met through mutual friends in Los Angeles' wellness and entertainment communities. Their connection was described as organic and unforced. Two people who understood the pressures of public life, the complications of divorce, and the importance of maintaining privacy. The relationship was characterized as casual in early reports, suggesting that neither Kevin nor Kelly was rushing into anything serious. At 70 years old, Kevin had learned the hard way that jumping quickly from one relationship to another rarely ended well. Kelly, dealing with her own divorce and raising a young daughter, was likewise being cautious. But the chemistry between them was undeniable to those who saw them together. And as months passed, the relationship seemed to deepen and become more serious. What makes Kelly different from Kevin's previous partners is perhaps her independence and established identity. Unlike Cindy, who set aside her own ambitions to support Kevin's career, or Christine, who was significantly younger and less established when they married, Kelly has her own successful career, financial security, and public platform. She doesn't need Kevin's fame or money. She brings her own accomplishments to the table. This equality might be exactly what Kevin needs at this stage of his life, a partner who complements rather than completes him, someone who understands the demands of a public career but maintains her own separate identity. Friends of the couple have suggested that their connection is built on shared values around wellness, spirituality, family, and a desire to make positive impacts through their work. Interestingly, some observers have noted that Kelly bears a striking physical resemblance to Christine Baumgartner, with similar features, coloring, and style. Photos comparing the two women circulated online, with some commenters suggesting that Kevin has a type he's consistently drawn to. Whether the similarity is coincidence or reveals something about Kevin's preferences is open to interpretation, but it certainly caught people's attention. What matters more than physical resemblance, though, is whether Kevin and Kelly can build something healthy and lasting, something that breaks the patterns of Kevin's past relationships. Both have been burned by previous marriages. Both understand the importance of protecting their children from media scrutiny, and both seem committed to taking things slowly and carefully as they explore where this connection might lead. As of now, in late 2025, Kevin and Kelly are reportedly still together, though they've maintained relative privacy about their relationship. They've been spotted occasionally at events together, but neither has made official public statements or social media declarations about their status. This discretion is perhaps a sign of maturity and lessons learned from previous relationships that played out too publicly. Kevin, who has spent decades in the spotlight and seen his personal life dissected by tabloids countless times, seems determined to protect this relationship from the intense scrutiny that can poison even strong connections. Kelly, likewise, seems to value her privacy and the ability to develop this relationship on their own terms rather than according to public expectations or media narratives. Throughout all of Kevin's romantic entanglements over the decades, one relationship has captured public imagination more than any other, despite never actually being a romantic relationship at all: his connection with Whitney Houston. When Kevin and Whitney starred together in The Bodyguard in 1992, their on-screen chemistry was explosive. The film became one of the biggest hits of the decade, and Whitney's rendition of I Will Always Love You became one of the best-selling singles of all time. Fans desperately wanted the co-stars to be together in real life, and rumors swirled constantly about a secret romance between them. Kevin had reportedly fought for Whitney to get the role, believing in her ability to carry a major film despite her lack of acting experience. On set, they developed a deep bond, and Whitney later credited Kevin with protecting her and making her feel safe in the intimidating world of Hollywood filmmaking. But both Kevin and Whitney consistently maintained that their relationship was purely professional and friendly, never romantic. Kevin was married to Cindy at the time of filming, and while his marriage was troubled, there's no credible evidence that he and Whitney ever crossed that line. Yet the connection between them was undeniably special, a meeting of talents and souls that created movie magic. The depth of Kevin's feelings for Whitney became heartbreakingly clear when he delivered a eulogy at her funeral in February 2012 after her tragic death. His speech was emotional, personal, and revealed a level of care and admiration that went beyond casual co-stars. He spoke of Whitney's beauty, talent, vulnerability, and the way she lit up every room she entered. Some observers listening to that eulogy wondered if Kevin had been in love with Whitney all along, carrying a torch for a woman he could never have because of circumstances, timing, and the boundaries they'd established. In later interviews, when asked about Whitney, Kevin has called her special and someone who remains important to him even in memory, suggesting a connection that transcended simple friendship but perhaps never had the chance to become something more. This pattern reveals something essential about Kevin Costner's approach to love and relationships. He is a man of intense feelings, capable of deep connections, but also someone who has repeatedly struggled with commitment, fidelity, and the responsibilities that come with partnership. His two marriages both lasted for significant periods: 16 years with Cindy, 18 years with Christine, suggesting he's capable of long-term partnership. But both marriages ended amid accusations of infidelity or emotional distance, suggesting that Kevin has struggled to maintain the intimacy and dedication required for lifelong commitment. His brief relationship with Bridget Rooney, an initial refusal to acknowledge their son, revealed a man who sometimes ran from consequences rather than facing them head-on. His numerous rumored relationships with high-profile women, models like Elle Macpherson, actresses like Halle Berry and Courtney Cox, and others, paint a picture of someone drawn to beauty and excitement, perhaps sometimes at the expense of depth and stability. It would be unfair and incomplete to characterize Kevin simply as a Hollywood playboy who can't commit. He has 7 children from 3 different relationships, and by all accounts, he's a devoted father who has remained involved in all of his children's lives, even when relationships with their mothers have been difficult. He reportedly has a good relationship with his adult children from his first marriage, has accepted responsibility for Liam despite their complicated beginnings, and is actively co-parenting his 3 younger children with Christine despite their acrimonious divorce. Kevin has also spoken eloquently in interviews about his belief in love, family, and partnership, suggesting that his failures in these areas are not from lack of trying or caring, but perhaps from the particular challenges of maintaining relationships under the intense pressure of fame, constant travel, demanding careers, and the temptations that come with being a powerful Hollywood leading man. As Kevin approaches his 71st birthday, the question becomes, can he finally get love right? Is Kelly Noonan Gores a partner who will help him break the patterns of his past and build something lasting in his later years? Or is this relationship destined to follow the same trajectory as his previous ones, burning bright before eventually collapsing under the weight of incompatibility or Kevin's own demons? Only time will tell, but there are reasons for cautious optimism. Kevin is older now, presumably wiser from his mistakes, and dealing with the consequences of 2 expensive divorces that have cost him not just money, but emotional capital and public goodwill. He's at a stage of life where most people are seeking peace, comfort, and genuine connection rather than excitement and validation. Kelly, likewise, brings her own maturity, independence, and experience with the challenges of high-profile relationships and divorce. Perhaps most importantly, both Kevin and Kelly seem committed to keeping this relationship private and protected from a media circus that has complicated Kevin's previous relationships. They're not performing their romance for the public, not posting couple selfies on social media, not giving joint interviews about their love. This discretion might be exactly what allows a relationship to develop naturally and authentically without the pressure of public expectations and constant scrutiny. If Kevin has learned anything from his romantic history, it should be that relationships require work, commitment, honesty, and the willingness to prioritize partnership over individual desires. Whether he can put those lessons into practice remains to be seen. Looking back at Kevin Costner's romantic journey from his college romance with Cindy Silva through his complicated relationship with Bridget Rooney, his 18-year marriage to Christine Baumgartner, and now his new relationship with Kelly Noonan Gores, we see a man who has loved deeply, failed spectacularly, hurt people he cared about, and yet continued to believe in the possibility of lasting love. His story is messy and complicated, filled with contradictions and mistakes, but it's also profoundly human. Kevin Costner is not a villain in his own love story, but neither is he a hero. He's a flawed man who has sometimes chosen poorly, sometimes acted selfishly, and sometimes let the pressures of fame and ego override his better judgment. But he's also a man who will continue to show up, to try again, to believe that despite past failures, love is still worth pursuing. The contrast between Kevin's public persona and his private struggles is striking. On screen, he's played heroes, protectors, and romantic leads whose love conquers all obstacles. Off-screen, his romantic life has been marked by betrayal, divorce, scandal, and heartbreak. This disconnect between image and reality is perhaps one of the central challenges of Kevin's life. How to reconcile the person the public expects him to be with the complicated, imperfect person he actually is. In many ways, Kevin's romantic journey mirrors his career. Periods of extraordinary success followed by disappointment, reinvention after failure, and the constant need to prove himself worthy of the acclaim and attention he receives. As Kevin enters this new chapter with Kelly Noonan Gores, the stakes feel different than they did in his youth or middle age. There's a sense of last chances and final opportunities, of time running out to get things right. At 70 years old, Kevin doesn't have another 40 years to experiment with relationships or recover from spectacular failures. This relationship, if it's going to work, needs to be approached with wisdom, intention, and a hard-won understanding of what actually makes partnerships succeed. Kelly, at 46, likewise is at a point in life where she presumably knows what she wants and won't settle for less. Together, they have potential to create something beautiful and lasting, a mature love built on shared values, mutual respect, and genuine compatibility rather than just passion and attraction. Meanwhile, Christine Baumgartner, Kevin's ex-wife, has also moved forward with her life. In October 2025, just about a year and a half after her divorce from Kevin was finalized, Christine married Josh Connor, the man who had been her and Kevin's neighbor during their marriage and whom she was rumored to have been involved with even before the divorce. The wedding was reportedly an intimate affair, a stark contrast to her lavish 2004 wedding to Kevin. For Kevin, seeing his ex-wife move on and remarry so quickly after the divorce might have been painful, a reminder of the life they once shared and the family they broke apart. But it also perhaps freed him to move forward without guilt or obligation, to fully commit to building something new with Kelly without looking backward. The complex web of Kevin's relationships, his connection to his first wife, Cindy, who reportedly stayed friendly with him despite their painful divorce, his relationship with Bridget Rooney, which produced his son Liam, his 18-year marriage and 3 children with Christine, and now his budding relationship with Kelly, reveals a man who has touched many lives, created multiple families, and left both love and damage in his wake. Each relationship has shaped him, taught him lessons, revealed his strengths and weaknesses, and contributed to the person he is today. The question of whether Kevin can finally achieve the lasting, healthy partnership that has eluded him for 7 decades is one that millions of fans and observers are watching with genuine interest and, perhaps, a bit of hope. In Hollywood, where relationships are notoriously fragile and second chances are rare, Kevin Costner's romantic journey stands out for its sheer complexity and drama. He's been married twice, divorced twice, has 7 children with 3 different women, has been linked romantically to some of the most beautiful and accomplished women in the world, and yet still seems to be searching for something that has thus far eluded him. That search is perhaps what makes his story so compelling. Not the scandals or the drama, but the very human quest for connection, understanding, and love that persists despite repeated failures and heartbreaks. Whether Kevin finally finds his happily ever after with Kelly Noonan Gores, or whether this is simply another chapter in an ongoing story of romantic trial and error remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. Kevin Costner, the man who made audiences believe in love on screen, is still chasing it in real life, still hoping that despite everything, true and lasting love is possible. And perhaps that hope, that refusal to give up on love even after so much disappointment, is the most romantic thing about him.